this lady by the name of, she's a research scientist for the government, and her home base is Wake Forest University. I was introduced to her by somebody, and then I called her back. Long story short, she says, "Chris, I'm researching the paranormal. Me and my assistant, Ashley," she said, "we're researching the paranormal. And I just got to tell you," she said, "I've been on Pilot Mountain in North Carolina." She lived from Winston-Salem. Works at Wake Forest right there in Winston-Salem, right? So she said, "I was on Pilot Mountain, or Mount Pilot, like the Andy Griffith show, Mount Pilot, right?" She has a cabin near there, her home place from way back. And she said that she and Ashley would hike up on Pilot Mountain and sit under the stars and turn on this voice box. They call it a spirit box. I'd never heard of such. But it's a little device about like the size of a cell phone that has this awful noise that comes out of it. It sounds like
static.
Static, yeah, white noise. But it's ticking, tick, 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 like so. And what it's doing is scanning millions of frequencies. And these investigators believe that, and I know now, that disembodied spirits or voices can come through that thing. So she said she was on Pilot Mountain, and she would ask it questions, and it kept saying, "Chris, UFO, Chris, UFO." And it said it over and over several days. She would hear the same thing, "Chris, UFO." Even said Hope Mills, which is where we live. So she gets on the phone with MUFON and finds out who is Chris in the UFO. Well, they gave her my number right away. So she comes to the house, and we're out at the burning tree. First we did about an hour and a half interview in my study, and she had all her equipment running. And then we went, and not to get ahead of myself, but while they did the hour and a half study inside, they got like 60 or 70 voice communications, audible, that was recorded on a recorder, just coming out of thin air. So we go out to the tree, and we do this investigation, and I'm just holding this box in one hand, spirit box, with a cord hooked to a digital recorder. So this is recording what this is saying, and you can hear this thing. So she talks me into standing at the burning tree while my wife, her assistant, Pam and Ashley, my wife, and Stephanie, my niece. There were 4 ladies standing, 10 feet from me looking at me. I'm leaning against that burning tree, and I'm holding this thing. And we start asking questions. Crazy thing, this thing started talking, and it would answer my question. It would say my name, and 4 or 5 voices would come through it. They recorded 350 audio clips, and she said, "I've never seen anything like it." She said if I went to the Charleston jail to do a ghost hunt, she could take 6 of these recorders and let them run for hours, each one, and they might get one voice out of, 40 hours of recording, where we got over 350 recorded clips. But one thing it said, "Chris, the Pope is in danger. Help him. You must help the Pope." It was saying this. We got it on recording, and she even made a PowerPoint with this, with all these clips. You can listen to them.
Are they online?
No.
Okay.
I've got them.
Okay.
But with all this happening, I knew that the Pope was going to Philadelphia. He had been into Washington and was making his trip to New York City, and he was going to go to Philadelphia.
Was this Pope Francis?
I think it was Francis, right? When he was going to make a speech at the Congress, of the original Congress Hall in Philadelphia. So I call a friend that called me last night, the guy you asked me about who it was that called. I said, I called this guy. I said, "Hey, Larry, you won't believe this." I said, this lady has, and I'm talking to him right after all this investigation. I said, this thing keeps saying that the Pope's in trouble. He's coming to Philadelphia. He said, you must help him. It was saying this, not, you can hear it. You must help him. So immediately, my friend says, well, maybe you should come to Philadelphia and let's see what we can do about it. So 3 days later, I'm in Philadelphia, and when I walk in his house, there stands John Alexander. First time I ever met him. And that's when we started remote viewing the whole Pope, first chapter of this book. And they actually arrested a guy for trying to blow him up. I even told him he was going to use a bomb. I saw where the boat ramp beside Ben Franklin Bridge, I drew it all out, and they verified it. And so they got Secret Service involved. And then John calls Joe McMoneagle, and Joe says the same exact thing that I say. And so from that point, they shut down Philadelphia. They closed every access into it and made people walk from the Jersey side across the Ben Franklin Bridge. You had to walk in. You couldn't drive. And they arrested a guy for that. So that's how I met John, and it was a real thing, what happened there. And that got the attention of a lot of people.
Did you ever speak with the Pope?
I never have personally. I had messages relayed to me from the Vatican through Diana and my friend from NASA, Tim Taylor. And he sent me pictures of orbs and of St. Francis with these orbs appearing. And he had these hands were zapped. And at that time, I couldn't use my hands. I could barely button my pants. I had to get my kids to button my pants.